My ex-husband left me because of treason and left me penniless, and I took revenge on him. My name is Anna, and I always believed I could endure any hardship life threw at me. But the day my husband threw me out changed everything. Imagine this. It was June 5th, 2023. My then-husband Mark, the owner of several profitable businesses in San Francisco, packed all my belongings into a few large trash bags and left them in front of our luxurious mansion on Nob Hill. His voice was cold, devoid of any emotion, as he said, "You have no place here anymore, Anna. It's over now." Well, he had his reasons. I'm not afraid to admit it. I was unfaithful. It was wrong, it was ugly, but I don't regret it because my infidelity was only a consequence of what Mark turned our marriage into. 10 years, 10 long years, I stayed by the side of a man who believed that money could buy everything, even love and respect. I never felt valued, only like another accessory to his success. Our life was a series of cold gatherings where I was just an ornament, always smiling, always grateful. Throughout our marriage, Mark invested in everything except me, in his stocks, new houses, startups. But that day, standing on the street, my life shattered before my eyes. All I had was a few dollars in my wallet and an old phone with a dying battery. People passing by shot me disdainful looks, and I thought, how could this happen to me, a strong woman who once dreamed of conquering the world? I felt desperate, my pride crushed, barely holding back tears. But somewhere deep inside, a spark was already igniting. Not everyone will understand, but I wasn't a victim. My life had long since become a prison. Each day, watching Mark, his vanity and greed, I felt even more alone. And when he threw me out of his glamorous empire, I knew I had to fight. I had to find a way to rebuild my life and get justice. Thus began my journey toward redemption, though I had no idea at that moment how I'd do it. Reddit user comments, "Lonely Lark. Wow. Anna, you're so strong for owning up to your mistakes, but honestly, it sounds like Mark got exactly what he wanted, an illusion of control. I hope you give him a real fight, just another rebel." This story hit me hard. Hang in there. I hate when people use their financial power to crush others. I hope you have a plan, Truthseeker90. It's sad that your mistakes became his excuse to destroy you. Your honesty really struck a chord, and I'd love to know how you'll keep fighting. Heartfelt whisper. Such a powerful story. I know you'll get through this. Even with such tragedy, there's room for resilience and hope. I can't wait to hear what comes next. I stood outside that Nob Hill mansion, realizing that my life had changed in an instant. It was June 5th, 2023, and I felt worthless, abandoned under the scorching sun. The city around me went on with its usual business. Tourists took photos near the famous cable car lines, and business people in suits rushed to their meetings. It felt as though the world had paused just for me, highlighting the depth of my defeat. Mark, the man who once promised me eternal love on the shores of Malibu in 2013, had become someone I could barely recognize. His ambitions had always been directed inward, as if in his eyes, no one mattered but himself. And now, on this unfortunate June day, his ambition had completely extinguished any remnants of humanity. My thoughts were a tangled mess. I remembered how, in 2018, he vowed we would always be together when we celebrated our 5th anniversary in Paris. I never could have imagined that, 5 years later, I'd be standing here, on a cold granite road, abandoned and betrayed. I felt despair and uncertainty with every step. What to do next? Where to go? Who to trust? I tried calling my best friend, Lisa, the one person who had always been there for me. She answered almost immediately, and I, unable to hold back my tears, poured out everything I'd been holding inside. Lisa, a lawyer at a small firm in downtown San Francisco, was my only glimmer of hope. She quickly left her office and drove up in her old Honda. Her hug, simple and genuine, was the one thing that made me believe I could get through this. "Anna, I know this sounds awful, but maybe now you have a chance to start over," Lisa spoke gently, as if carefully holding my broken pieces. But I couldn't think of a new beginning yet, not when everything I had was in ruins. Still, her words carried more than just sympathy. They fueled my desire to fight for my life. The next few hours were an emotional maze. Lisa and I sat in her small apartment in the Richmond district, a place much quieter than Mark's glittering neighborhoods. I felt tiny, like a grain of sand in this big city, but my friend kept repeating, "You're strong, Anna." And now it's time to show the world. Reddit user comments, Empathic Soul 77, your sense of despair feels almost tangible. You described it so vividly, I nearly cried myself. I hope your friend Lisa helps you gather your strength. City Survivor 88, San Francisco can be a cruel city for those without money. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it seems like you've got some glimmers of hope. Don't give up. Phoenix Rising 123, Mark sounds like a classic narcissist. Glad you have support like Lisa. I hope you can get back at him someday. Life twists and turns. This reminds me how easily life can change in an instant. Your story makes me appreciate everything I have. Thank you for your honesty, and stay strong. Sitting in Lisa's small kitchen on June 6, 2023, I felt myself consumed by a true chaos of emotions. My entire life was shattering into millions of pieces, each one painfully piercing my heart. Lisa watched me with compassion, but also with hope that I would finally rise. She had always believed in me more than I believed in myself. Her small apartment in the Richmond district was an island of calm in my ocean of despair, but even that calm felt fragile. I pulled out an old notebook, faded from years of notes and observations. In it, I had kept silent records of Mark's activities over the years. I hadn't just been handling household chores all those years. I had been listening and remembering. Mark always underestimated me. He assumed I couldn't comprehend his complex business schemes, but he had no idea that his underestimation would become my strength. Flipping through the pages, I marked important dates and financial transactions he had mentioned in passing whenever he was in a good mood. For instance, in 2019, he bragged about secret investments in offshore accounts, including unknown companies in Panama. I recalled how he boasted about dodging an internal investigation thanks to his connections on the board of a major bank. His money worked better than any truth. And now, here I was, sitting in Lisa's kitchen, holding information that could unravel his empire. So, you have this information. What's next? Lisa tapped the table, pulling me out of my thoughts. Her tone was serious, even slightly stern. She knew this was no game, and Mark, whom we were discussing, was no ordinary enemy. Gathering my courage, I said, I need to find someone who can help me use all of this to my advantage. I need a lawyer, and a good one. This was not going to be easy. I felt fear envelop me. Mark had always used his wealth as a weapon. I had seen him destroy people who dared to stand against him. I trembled at the thought of becoming his next target. But on the other hand, a growing desire for revenge burned within me, a desire to regain my freedom and strip away his mask of the respectable businessman. The next day, June 7th, I met Yuri, a lawyer Lisa had recommended. His office in the Mission District, nestled in an old building with creaking stairs and dusty windows, was far from the luxurious places I had grown accustomed to with Mark. Yet, the place radiated a strange reliability. Yuri was a middle-aged man with a stern face and a calm voice that inspired confidence. I opened my notebook and began to tell my story. Yuri listened intently, not interrupting once. With each new detail, his expression grew more serious. He understood the danger of this case. Anna, he finally said, closing the notebook, this is no joke. You have very serious material here, but prepare yourself for a war. His words sent a chill down my spine, but there was a promise in his tone, not just a threat. We began planning our first steps. Yuri suggested contacting a human rights organization that helps those who have been victims of abuse of power. We knew this case would attract a lot of attention, and that was the only thing that could protect me from Mark's potential blows. But I had to be prepared for anything, as Mark never played by the rules. Back at Lisa's, I sat by the window for a long time, watching the night shadows fill the streets. My heart beat rapidly. I realized I had taken the first step in a dangerous game. But this time, I wasn't planning to lose, even if it meant fighting the man I once loved. Reddit user comments, Deep Truth Hunter. this isn't just a story of betrayal and despair anymore. You're starting a true battle against a powerful enemy, and it's inspiring. Mark will regret underestimating you. Shadow Rebel 1978. Your description of the tension and fear gave me chills. I hope Yuri has the experience to help you win this fight. Hang in there, fearless Phoenix. Mark seemed like a monster from the start, but now I see he's capable of even worse. Draw strength from your knowledge, Anna, and keep pushing forward. Skeptical Whisper. I can't stop reading your story. I can only imagine how hard it is to fight against fear and doubt. But now, with a plan, everything has changed. Don't back down. On June 8, 2023, the morning seemed different, as though dawn itself had shifted. I woke up in Lisa's tiny apartment, where the morning light filtered through narrow curtains, illuminating scattered papers on the table filled with notes about Mark's schemes. These papers, artifacts from the past, were now my only chance to reclaim my life. Inside, I remained a whirlwind of fears and doubts. Thoughts of Mark's revenge choked me. After all, he had money, power, and countless connections in the city. His resources seemed limitless. All I had was a notebook, a few pieces of evidence, and friends trying to support me as best they could. But the price I was paying for this battle was immense. My mind wouldn't let me rest. I was tortured by sleepless nights, afraid of every phone call or sound outside the window. That morning, I met with Yuri again. His office in Mission District, located on California Street, was modest, with the faint hum of a coffee shop across the street. I felt my fear turn to anger as Yuri explained how difficult it would be to prove all the charges. But I managed to stay clear-headed. We decided to file the first documents with the state's Internal Affairs Department, where similar cases had been processed before. At 10:30 a.m., I stood in front of the department's doors. The cold metal of the handle felt like a verdict, but also a symbol that I was ready to go on the offensive. It was hard to believe I was standing here, filled with the determination to expose the man I once shared all my secrets and dreams with. My world, once built around the idea of a happy marriage, was now sustained by my ability not to succumb to despair. I handed the documents to the receptionist, and with that, the official part of my battle began. Later that day, I received the first disturbing sign, a call from an unknown number. On the other end, someone stayed silent, and then I heard a faint laugh, the same laugh I'd heard many times at our parties, when Mark was in a good mood. I knew he was starting to play his game. Lisa noticed my anxiety and insisted we keep calm, even if Mark tried to intimidate me. I know this is hard, she said, putting a hand on my shoulder. But you have to be strong. All these years, you listened to him and obeyed his will. Now it's his turn to listen to you. Her words sounded like a call to action. My fear slowly transformed into anger. I no longer wanted to be the person he controlled and used. For the first time in a long while, my heart beat in sync with a desire to win. Late at night, I returned to Lisa's apartment. We sat together, drinking tea and discussing our next steps. We knew Mark might use all his connections to protect himself. But I was ready to face it. And for the first time in days, I began to believe that even the darkest night could end in dawn. Reddit user comments, "Never give up 567. You are so brave, Anna. I know what it's like to feel trapped, but you're already doing what many people fear. I'm proud of your courage." Justice Seeker 88. Mark sounds like a classic manipulator. The fact that he doesn't even hide his pressure is terrifying, but I believe the truth always wins. Don't give up. Resilient spirit. That laugh from the call gave me chills. I can only imagine how scary it was, but you're holding your ground. I hope your story inspires others to keep fighting. Light in the shadows. It's wonderful to see you finding support in friends. Lisa is a true hero in this story. Together, you're stronger than Mark thinks.